Okay, now let's try this for the second time in a row. Alright, here we go. Hey guys, welcome back to my video. So, today I am going to be reading Chasing Light, Chapter 2, Part 2. Now, if you haven't read anything else, link is in the description. And actually, before I read, I'm going to go do something. I will be right. I'm actually gonna stay here. Yeah. Holy smokes! If I have to save it under this name. All right, guys. I'm sorry about that. Gotta take care of something. Okay, now we can officially start. Cool. Yeah, let's officially start. Sorry about that. Telling Salvatore he had to. So yeah, this is part 2, by the way. All right. Telling Salvatore he had to wait 2 days to find out if he'll find out if find out if he'd be allowed to exist anymore was like praying the Lord he would end the Lord would end the suffering as the kids searched for other forms of entertainment. At first, they hadn't seen him, not after Barry went to fill him in on Cisco's ham and cuff. Barry had assured them he wasn't a threat over and over, and if Barry said it, they had to believe it. That didn't keep them from feeling just a little off as they worked, though. The day, knowing he was wandering the building with nothing left to do now that he wasn't plotting to make them miserable, Barry had gone to be a forensic scientist, which was apparently something he still did, with Joe at CCPD. His real job. Iris had gone home, probably to plan the wedding. She'd been recuperating at the apartment a lot since HR had taken her place. Barry had explained she'd need time. Wally was out saving the day as Kid Flash, and Caitlin had one eye on his vitals in the courthouse as he stopped robberies and saving cats from trees. The other eye on Cisco, who was on the other end of the room, hard at work on his ham and cuff. Every step in the corridors had made Caitlin look over her shoulders, expecting dark hair and a darker outfit, expecting Salvador to come around the corner. Each time she saw him, her brain and emotions had a full-blown prudential debate because it was Barry, her emotions said, as she recognized him, her own personal superhero, her friend, her confidant, the man who made her angrier than anyone, and completely safe, a flashlight of a person. And her brain would shove her emotions out of the way, because no, it was Savitar. Savitar who terrorized Julian and took HR from them, the man who would have killed Iris West and split Team Flash down the middle, as if they had shared nothing at all, ever, with his smirk in eyes that said he was out of his mind, complete ultimate wickedness. Now that complete ultimate wickedness knew he may or may not have 2 days left to live, he was all the more irritable, clearly unenthused by the wait time. Caitlin didn't realize how long he'd been lingering on Joy until she glanced at the dormant monitor to her left, seeing him behind her in the reflection. She turned her chair a little too quickly. Savitar didn't seem to want much conversation. He had been one with the wall, friendly with the shadows, staring at what little he could see of the Hammond-cuff past Sisko's hunched form. Caitlin watched him, wondering if he noticed, that she'd noticed him. He couldn't lounge in the corner forever. It was childish, but she felt like he knew she was aware of him, but he wouldn't be so smug standing there, so negligent and detached, uncaring while they worked. He wasn't sneaky. This wasn't her first rodeo. She knew he was there. She won, but he didn't look at her. Boy, she missed Barry when he was gone. They had to face the reverse Flash, Zoom, Time Wraiths, all kinds of people. And it was so new to have this kind of unhumanity living amongst them. Yes, Thon Zalman had done it for a while, but that was when that's when they deceived the team. They hadn't known there was a serial killer beneath the roof. Sorry. A little bit quieter. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Damn, got it. Beneath the roof, making friends. This was different. The worst foe they had ever faced. The jolt behind every sleepless night and string behind every helpless tear. The reason Iris had spent early mornings at Jitters with Caitlin because Barry was being a Flash and his fiancée could not be alone in the apartment. The reason Wally had cried in his sleep every night for the past month. According to Joe, the reason Barry would slip away into his own mind where none of them could see him, more often now than ever before, glazed green eyes fixed on what he could become and the possibility of losing the girl he couldn't live without. And he was just standing there, Savitar. Sisko could barely handle breathing his air. Iris avoided his eyes. Joe refused to look at him altogether. Wally's face lost all arrogance and color when they shared a room. For every minute, Kid Flash just seemed genuinely afraid. Only Barry seemed undaunted, and Caitlin knew it was because he was the person who knew exactly what happened in that milled brain. He knew what Savitar was feeling because Barry knew what he could feel, the potential what he had felt before, and Savitar knew. And Savitar was all those times 1,000. That was all Caitlin had to hear. If Barry promised Savitar was done punishing them, then that was all there was to it. No one else could make a better argument. Seeing the two speedsters staying in the same building was argument enough. Of course, this to make it easier to have him around, especially when he had a very oblivious expiration date. "How's it coming?" he asked suddenly, each word dull brick, each word a dull brick dropping into the air, both making both scientists jerk. Cisco shook his head, not turning around to acknowledge him further. Salter unfolded his arms and craned his neck to catch another glimpse at the device that could save his life. "It's running on temporal energy, isn't it?" Everything he said was sandpaper. Caitlin was so unaccustomed hearing Barry say anything without maximized amount of emotion. Deadpan was so not him. It was fascinating to watch it come out anyways. Cisco was not giving Salvatore anything. Caitlin's eyes followed the speedster as he made his way to Ramon's workstation. She felt her arms ting, ready for an invitable smart mouth face-off about to get underway. Salter got off, making Cisco uncomfortable. The engineer was very easy to discomfort. Cisco's lungs and tone had been longing for a punching bag. Wells' murderer was a perfect target. He wanted to say something every time they went toe to toe. Killer Frost would have gotten right in the thick of things. She knew, probably would have taken over Cisco's side completely, matching Salvatore's insult for insult, cutting deeper and deeper. But she wasn't Killer Frost. She wouldn't allow it. Never again. That meant knowing when to let her own light tongue loose. Well, wasn't that wisdom? Cisco and Salvatore could argue until the two of them were blue in their face. Caitlin and Killer Frost were both good at picking their battles. She bit her lip and stayed silent. Salvatore reached for the handcuff, and Cisco jerked it away like a toddler protecting its favorite toy. "I want to see it," Salvatore said as coldly and simply as if he were saying the sky was blue. "There it is," Cisco replied, in an undertone, his eyes like chips sharp-pulled. He recovered the handcuff for a split second. "You can see it fine." The speedster chuckled. Salvatore had moved at superhuman speed, of course, and in a heartbeat he was turning over the device over and over, examining every inch of it. His finger ran over the lightning bolt carved inside the band. Cisco's chosen signature on any tech made for the Flash. Caitlin wondered briefly if he had done it out of habit or because, in a way, this handcuff had been made for the Flash. A version of him, anyways. Salvatore was looking at the signature bolt so long it was as if he'd gone to sleep standing up. His right brow was a little lower than his left, and his nose wrinkled very slightly. You guessed it, just like Barry. Barry had worn the same expression when he showed Caitlin and Joe old photo albums that past Christmas Eve, pointing to a picture he couldn't remember posing for. It dissipated. A 7-year-old Alan on his front porch with a little Iris eating ice cream. His mother in the background. Barry had looked at the photo as if drinking the last drop of water after spending all day in the heat. Salvatore was studying the lightning bolt sign with just as much desperation, and only Caitlin was seeing it. "It's not finished yet," she explained. Her voice was hoarse, as from the hours without use. Salvatore's eyes tore from the band and met hers. She wished she hadn't said anything. They were so guarded. No, it was impossible. He could ever be Barry Allen. Nowhere, nothing could make Barry Allen, their Barry, look like that. Those eyes had never been that locked and empty and cold. Not when they were looking at her. Barry wanted to help. He just wanted to help everyone. And those mismatched eyes said that there wasn't anyone in the world to help. Logic was abandoning her. Her brain would not accept what was standing several feet away from that wasn't Barry. That couldn't be Barry, and probably had never been Barry. But it is. How could he get this way? How could he get this way? And he, as his personal physician, Caitlin wanted to analyze the problem and prescribe a solution. Not that he would ever allow that, because that wasn't Barry. It was like he could feel her curling away from him when she had been stepping closer to observe moments before. Salvatore dropped the cuff back on Cisco's table more gently than he could have and went on gazing at Caitlin, as if he were now watching a dying insect in a corner. When will it be ready? Caitlin, relieved he had released Cisco's all-important device, found her voice again. We're not sure. I'd be done a lot faster if you weren't. If you quit interrupting. Cisco muttered to the former god of speed, pulling his vibe goggles from around his neck and strapping them on. Salvatore rolled his eyes across the wall and up the ceiling, a perfect image of the Flash during a lecture from the Arrow. I can help you, he said tartly. You don't think I know a thing or two about temporal energy? You trapped me in a speed force for decades, remember? No, Dose. No, we didn't. We don't remember that. Cisco ripped his goggles off and slammed them down on the table, gesturing paralyzing in between himself and Caitlin with a finger. Because we ain't there yet. Welcome to the past. We ain't done nothing to your medium rare honey. Salvatore watched him, unimpressed, not raising the bait. Cisco scruffed. You're not getting anywhere near this thing, okay? I'm just going to let your hands on another piece of our tech. It's done when it's done. Back on the goggles went. Go bother someone else. Daddy's busy. There was a sickly yellow flash of lightning, and Salvatore wasn't beside Cisco anymore. Caitlin waited for her partner to turn around and maybe rave about the nerve of the murderer, or at least search for comfort in a glance. But Cisco bent over his work and stayed there, tunnel vision fully focused again, shutting it all out. Caitlin would talk to him later. She had worked on her own to take care of. Wally's vitals were no longer on screen. He must have taken off his suit. She checked the time. 2:15. He was probably at school. She summarized, rolling in her chair and turning the other screen to boot up. Time to get back to a gas made her throat cold. Yes, she forced out. Salvatore was leaning over the screen, standing over the side of the desk with his arms folded across the top of the monitor. What do we have going on over here? Caitlin blinked at him, not comparing. He just made her stiff, like Ronnie had just died yesterday. Everything he was innocent. Incorrect. What are you still doing in this room? She hissed icily, lowering her voice so that Cisco wouldn't be disturbed. His goggles were on. He probably tapping into some of the temporal energy. He shouldn't be able to hear them. Nonetheless, Salvatore glanced carelessly over his shoulder at Cisco, taking an equal hushed tone. Daddy's busy. He flashed to the chair beside her. She blinked at him, and he was on her left. His scars were like looking at toasted bread through a microscope. She found the primal urge to make the face at the top. Yeah. Alright, guys. For now, I will say goodbye. I'll see you guys later. Uh, all right. Bye.